They both are really funny.
Good idea.
They just go with the flow. It's the Hershey and Keegs Show.
Welcome to Hershey and the Keegs Show, starring pitcher Mark Hirschman and his personal catcher, Mike Keegan. Every Tuesday night at 9 p.m. live from the Governor's Comedy Club radio studio. Thanks so much for listening.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is Tuesday night, 9 p.m. You know what that means. That means it's the Hershey and the Keegs Show right here from Gov's Comedy Club podcast studio. I am Mike Keegan here with Mark Hirschman, Tony Walker, our producer. And we're about to have some fun. We have a great guest coming on. And how are you, Marky?
Hi, handsome. How you doing, pal?
I'm doing all right.
You look, I felt like you looked extra adorable when you walked in tonight.
I felt extra adorable.
Yeah, you have a little, like, cute Shamrock America hat.
I can't wear my Bills hat anymore.
Yeah,
so.
no, that's okay. You're just cute as a button.
I really am.
We, listen, you know, thank goodness 2025 has been great to us. We've had a great year. We've had Kim Jones on and Nelson Figueroa, Todd Zeal's coming on, and now we have Steve Heitner from so many different things that we're super stoked about. So we're gonna go right into our first set of promos, and we're gonna go right to Steve because he's waiting, he's hot and heavy, waiting in the chamber over there.
When the wings, they call them.
The Hershey and Keegs Show is proudly sponsored by Demolition Specialists, 1-855-RIP-OUTS, the number you call for demolition, dumpsters, and fence rental. Family owned and operated for over 35 years, they are a fully licensed demolition contractor. Angela's Bra Boutique at 223 Main Street in Farmingdale, 516-249-6509. Personalized bra fittings providing a wide selection of brands, sizes, and styles. And with a new promotion, if you mention Hershey and the Keegs Show at Angela's Bra Boutique, you get 10% off any purchase. And there's actually a little button on their register when you go in there, you hit it, and it says that you're a Hershey and Keegs fan. So please make sure you take advantage of that. Triple M Professional Painting and Construction, 516-395-6390. Family owned and operated for over 35 years. Call for your free estimate today and ask for James. And wrapping up this first set of sponsors is Sunray Services. Now is the best time to convert to hybrid heating and cooling. Call them today at 631-231-5533 or visit them online at www.sunrayservices.com. That wraps up our first set of Hershey and the Keegs Show sponsors. We'll be back in about 45 minutes with some more. And with no further ado, our lovely producer, Tony Walker, is going to punch up Mr. Steve Heitner, who's been waiting patiently via Zoom from Las Vegas. Is that correct?
I am actually outside Reno towards Lake Tahoe.
Look at that. And you are heading to the Northeast pretty soon. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'm head out tomorrow. I've got a show up in Connecticut, then over to Princeton, and then up to Boston.
Wow, excellent. A little Northeast tour. So, yeah, we're looking forward to the Princeton show because I'll be on that show with Steve. I'll be featuring at Catch a Rising Star on Friday night with Steve.
I love this.
And I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah, so, Steve, just to introduce, so I am Hershey. This is your buddy Mike Keegan, the Keegs, who you'll be working with, and he is going to be a terrific feature. You're going to love that. And our producer and the producer of the Governor's Comedy Club radio studio is Mr. Tony Walker, and we're all overjoyed to have you. So welcome.
I'm happy to be here. I'll actually be doing Governors this May.
I just saw that on the website. I was just telling Mark that you'll be here on a weekend.
Yeah, so we will make sure we're both here, and we'll see if we can get Mikey to feature for you. Maybe I'll pop in a little bit.
But yeah, we'll definitely spread the word for that one too.
Now, Steve, I'm going to open up with something that is going to be joyful for me and you, but I don't think that Mike and Tony are going to appreciate it because after 3 years of doing this show, they are sick and tired of me talking about a particular subject.
What, yourself?
Well, besides myself and my late dad, I know you're tired of hearing from both. Rest in peace, Steve Hirschman. But during my research, during my crack production crew preparation for this show, I found out that you, like me, are a former Valley Stream resident.
Ah, yeah. Is that Well, Valley Stream's pretty big. We had 3 high schools.
That's correct. So you were a Valley Stream Central Eagle.
Yes,
I was a Valley Stream South Falcon. Now, I'm sure you know that the majority of the really good people from Valley Stream did come from Valley Stream Central. I'm going to throw a couple at you, and I'm sure you are aware of Fred Armisen, Jim Brewer, Steve Buscemi. Do you know that all those are from Valley Stream?
I do.
You did.
You know what? The only one I knew was Steve, and I didn't really know him that well. He was like 2 years older than I was, but back in those days, Steve Buscemi was more of a jock. He was big on the soccer team and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and he was a fireman, I believe.
That's right. Yeah. He's a fireman. So in addition to that, though, I'll throw you a couple of other names that you may or may not know. And Mikey, I've probably thrown this at you a million times. Ed Burns, the filmmaker, is from my side of town in Valley Stream, over by the.
Oh, really? I didn't know he was from Valley Stream.
Yeah, from the Hewlett Valley Stream area. We have Cindy Lauper used to reside in Valley Stream. Did you know that, Steve?
Did not know that. Are you just starting to make stuff?
No,
He's just making stuff up now.
Listen,
George Washington.
Hold on.
Apparently.
If you go to the notable names on the Wikipedia Valley Stream page, these are all on there, including Mark Hirschman, co-host of Herschy and the Keegs podcast, and Steve Heitner of many different things. You also, I'm guessing, didn't know that Les Moonves used to be from Valley Stream?
I did know that because when I was in school, his younger brother, Jonathan Moonves,
yes,
and I were like best friends.
Okay, okay. I'll throw 2 more at you, 3 more. Good fella Henry Hill used to live in Valley Stream.
Really?
Did you know that, Mike?
I did not know that.
That sounds dangerous.
Yes.
Which high school did he go to?
I'm not sure if he went to any of them. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
And one that I did not know that I was fascinated with was that Rita Moreno used to live in Valley Stream.
Really?
Boy, I got to say, I didn't see these people on the streets. I didn't.
You didn't.
You didn't run into Rita Moreno?
This is Rita Moreno tap dancing down the street.
Over on Central Avenue?
Central, nice, Mikey.
Thank
Good
you.
VS reference. And certainly my favorite, who I think potentially is still a resident of Valley Stream, is Shaggy. The singer Shaggy is a Valley Stream resident.
Scooby-Doo?
No, not Shaggy from Scooby-Doo. Shaggy, the
reggae guy.
Yeah, you know that
I
song.
didn't know that. Yeah. And he still lives there, really?
Well, he, as of a few years ago, he was still an active resident of Valley Stream. So
Shaggy.
Yeah, so here's to us Valley Stream guys and Kona Pizza and Itkins and Mitchell's, and I don't know if you remember any of that stuff, Steve, but those are
I remember Ancona Pizza. That I ate there thousands of times.
Thousands of times. Ancona, just so you know, recently, after being owned by the same family since 1973, 2 months ago changed hands and is no longer the same owner situation. So that's a little bit of a down note, right?
Well,
what are we gonna do?
First of all, congratulations on paying for the Valley Stream flyer that apparently comes on a weekly basis.
That's right.
Exactly.
That's right. It used to be called the Valley Stream.
Well worth every penny right there.
Steve, it was called the Valley Stream Mail Leader, if you remember. That was the circulation, right? And you know what's funny? The one name I left out, which my hunch is that you've crossed paths with more than any of these names, was a comedian that used to live next door to my best friend, Larry Miller. Do you know Larry Miller?
I know Larry Miller well. Yes, when I first started doing stand up, I was at the comic strip, and he was a comic strip act. Mm-hmm. So he was obviously a little before me and very well established, but we both came out of the comic strip. And so I definitely knew him well.
Now, is that where you got started at the comic strip as a Long Island guy?
Yeah, I mean, I came out just wanting to act.
Yeah, okay.
But as you're starting that, it can be difficult, and sometimes it's difficult for the rest of your career.
Yeah.
But it can be difficult. So at that time, stand-up was blown up in New York. So there were all these stages and all these opportunities. So, some of my friends were like, hey, you never shut up. Why don't you try that? so I gave it a try, and I passed very quickly at the comic strip. So that was kind of my home.
Okay,
now, did you study? Did I read it correctly that you started studying acting in Kentucky? Is that correct?
Incorrect.
Oh.
Well, you were on a roll.
Jesus.
Yeah,
Tell me,
Yep.
what did I think that I read that's something similar to that? Where did you first started studying?
I have no idea why you would think Kentucky, but yeah, I started studying. I moved in Manhattan. I started studying with I was so fortunate. I was studying with some of the top teachers like Uta Hagen, Sanford Meisner, just these amazing acting teachers. And I love the studying part, but I was more eager to get into the making money part.
Did you ever go to the Kentucky Fried Chicken on Merrick Road in Limbrook? That's what I meant to ask you.
Yeah, I don't know where you got Kentucky from, but
I wrote something about KFC. That was the confusing part.
that was your son's dinner order, I think, Mark.
So originally, your goal was to become an actor, and the comedy thing was more of a quick fix from a finance standpoint. Is that how it worked out for you?
Yeah, it was more than anything. It was an opportunity to perform. Right? It was a stage. It's a small stage, but it was a stage. So I tried stand-up. Turns out I was decent at it. Then I started doing a little more of it, and I started making a little money at it. Because, every place had like a comedy night then. Every restaurant in Connecticut or whatever had comedy night. So you could start making a little money doing that. And then I had this thing where, you know what, I really want to try being an actor one more time, just really focus on it. And that's when I moved to L.A. And once I moved to L.A., I just, I got a gig, I got another gig, and I didn't stop working for 25 years.
That's great.
So usually we hear that the actors who wound up starting out on Seinfeld were a lot of people that Larry worked with or Jerry worked with. Did you have a connection to one of those guys from a stand-up standpoint?
Well, Jerry also came out of the comic strip. That was his home club as well. But he was, definitely ahead of me. He was already doing the Tonight Show and whatnot. So we had passed each other and what. But I think they were interested in me for Seinfeld. But, I didn't book the first role. I think I had auditioned for 3 or 4 other parts before Banya.
Oh, wow.
So I think it was just a case of them going, yeah, we like Steve. We like Steve a lot. We're gonna find the right thing. We're gonna find the right thing. And then obviously Banya was the right thing.
And they found the right thing. I mean, that was awesome. I was just telling Mark and Tony, like, Seinfeld, obviously one of my favorite shows of all time. I've seen every episode 100 times. It's my show I watch every night before I go to sleep. And last night, before I went to sleep, the dry cleaner episode where
that's odd.
Kramer lent you his pants, and it was great. It was great.
What a coincidence!
With the cream with Uma Thurman.
Yeah,
that one was on last night, and I'm like, oh, that's awesome.
That's phenomenal.
Well, it's on.
It's certainly on.
So it's interesting, and we before we'll go back to Seinfeld, but I don't know if you ever worked with a comedian that I got to know a little bit. He passed a few years ago, named Max Alexander. Did you ever meet Max?
Yeah, I love Max Alexander.
He was
just such a funny man.
He was a beautiful soul. He was a generous man.
A very kind man as well.
He used to spend I was a new comic 2010, I guess, and he would spend a half hour on the phone with me like it was nothing, just to bullshit. And one thing that he had told me, and I'm curious as to if this was similar for you, is that his first experience being on Carson changed his life and gave him business for 20 years after that. Can you kind of equate that to your experience on Seinfeld, that you've had a run of business because of Banya and the time that you spent as Banya?
Well, I mean, it's not a direct correlation as it is with stand-up, because he's doing stand-up and then that got him more stand-up, where Seinfeld gets a little trickier. Did Seinfeld get me work? Absolutely. Of course it did. But then there's also, as I said, I was quite a serious actor when I was studying in New York and stuff. And there's no doubt I was in some audition rooms on like real dramatic stuff that I was killing it. And you could just feel the room like, can we really cast Banya in this part?
Yeah.
You could kind of feel that. Now, I'm not saying that stopped me from anything, but you definitely felt it at times. But it also had gotten me tons of work as well.
Yeah.
If I'm in a movie, especially back then, if it wasn't a comedy, as soon as my face hit the screen, the theater would start cracking up.
Yeah. He was one of the most recognizable characters on the most popular sitcom. And from also, that was the golden age of sitcoms, and you did that whole run of sitcoms with Friends and King of Queens, and
Yeah.
So
2.5 Men I was recurring on.
Yep.
When you popped up on CSI and X-Files and shows like that, you think that there was definitely that, like, oh wow, what's Banya doing on a CSI episode about a murder?
Yeah, I think well, hopefully, I had enough skill to help them lose that and enjoy the episode. But I think in when I'm in that room for 5 minutes to audition, I think it was definitely felt in that room more so. But the number of times I was able to break through and book those things. But in the long run, though, definitely Seinfeld has been a huge, huge benefit to my career. And also, I also embrace it. A lot of people, if they have a role like that, they just don't like being identified with it. Now, I don't go out of my way to be identified with it, but I don't run from it.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
that's a very interesting question. I know, Mike, you've worked with a lot of these guys who were on shows, J.J. Walker and things like that. And I have heard of comics who have played parts that they've tried to separate themselves from the part. And you're saying that while you haven't necessarily gone out of your way to embrace it, you're not hiding from it either, because it's a part of your life and it always will be.
Yeah, in many ways. Like, look, I don't want to get too zen about it, but if I walk outside my front door, somebody's going to scream, "That's gold, Jerry, gold." That's just going to happen, right? So why am I going to make that a negative? So I can have a bad experience every day? I just choose to embrace it. It's just stupid. You should just kind of, or I think you should look at it as a blessing of your career or something that was great. And if people are cool about it, I'm cool about it. If I'm sitting there having dinner with my family and they're coming over, then I know, this might not be the time. But most of the time, people are cool about it.
But yeah, exactly, because it's so recognizable. But you've had such a more broad body of work beyond that. You've worked with Clint Eastwood, a lot of serious roles and stuff like that. And
when I left the house tonight, my wife, she always asks, she says she doesn't watch the show, and it's going on 3 years, and I'm pretty sure she does to check me on me and Mikey and our behavior. But she said, well, she knows the last few weeks have been like at professional athletes and TV personalities from sporting things and whatnot. And she said, who's on tonight? I said, Steve Heitner, from, Kenny Banya from Seinfeld. She's like, oh my God, has he aged? And I said, well, I would presume he has.
But he hasn't.
So that's exactly right. I'm looking and I'm like, it's been 20 years since the show is off. Is that right? How many years since the show's over?
More than that.
I started the show ended in 98, I guess.
My Lord. I'm sure you get this a lot, and I'm not just looking to blow smoke up your tuchus, but my God, you really have aged very nicely. You really have.
It is kind of bizarre how many people mention it.
Is that right?
And they'll usually say, hey, it's a little weird how you haven't aged that much.
Yeah.
And I'll go, you know what? If we had a picture of me as Banya in '94 right now next to me, you'd go, all right, well, maybe a little.
Maybe a little bit.
Yeah, listen. Yeah,
From
there's
here, I'm like, did he eat baby hearts? Like,
gee, that's gold, Steve. You have like maybe a little bit of gray temples, but other than that, your face looks like it's like you've been using Noxzema by the gallon every night.
Well, then, maybe I'll get an Noxzema deal.
Right.
So I'm giving you an assignment in case I don't make your gig on Friday. Please make sure you take a picture. Now, Mike is 40 or so, something like that.
41.
41. Steve is a little bit older than that. I want to take a side-by-side to see if you guys look like you were classmates or brother, uncle, and nephew or something.
Right,
we want to see.
Because
you tend to look cherubic in the way you look. So, but this is like, I'm like, is this some old, stuff from the can that he's using, old tape?
I also got a hot light on me. Maybe it helps wash it out a little.
Could help.
I don't know.
CGI.
I'm looking for a wrinkle and I can't find one. It's pissing me off. Really annoying.
There.
One question.
Let's try and let it go.
We're gonna let it go. We're gonna let it go. Mike and I will argue about this later. Why you look so goddamn young. One question that Mike and I always like to ask, regardless of where our guests are in life, where they've come from, is: do you ever really give yourself an opportunity to kind of just sit back for a second and look at the ride that you've been on? Not that your ride's over. You probably have 30 more years in the entertainment business, but do you ever really look like, wow, what's happened here? Like, it's been quite a run so far for me.
I think at this point, I just turned 65, and I think at this point I have to some degree.
Yeah.
But certainly, when I was just like you guys, like you were saying, when I was on every sitcom that there was, I was guesting on so many different shows. At that point, it was all just happening, and I was just trying to, quite frankly, focus on getting more. And there was no time to really take a look at what I was accomplishing, but I think I do so much more stand-up now than I do acting, that it has allowed me to reflect more on my acting, because I'm not doing as much of that.
Yeah.
So in stand-up, it's crazy that I left stand-up to go to see if I really could act. And now I've kind of gone back to stand-up, and stand-up's so much more interesting to me now. I mean, I have more to talk about now.
Yeah.
When I was 23 doing stand-up, my whole act was, why won't she touch me? That was my whole life experience.
Yeah.
So now I have more things to talk about. So I think as I've done more and more stand-up, it's given me a chance to reflect back a little bit more.
What's the longest stretch that you stopped performing? How many years?
Stop performing stand-up?
Yeah.
Over 20.
Oh, wow.
Whoa. So when did you start again?
Yeah, when did you kind of go full speed back
I started again in 2009.
Okay.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah.
I know.
That's
why I was interested to go back to stand-up. I'm like, I don't even know what this will be like, whether I'll like it. And like I said, the first thing I noticed is I just had more life experience. I had more to talk about.
Yeah.
Did you feel like it was riding a bike, or was it starting from the beginning, or somewhere in the middle?
In the middle.
Yeah.
Because it's definitely not riding a bike. You got to have those, that ability. But I didn't, because it had been 20 some odd years, it's not like I got up and told my old jokes. I barely remembered my old jokes. It was 20 something years.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I just got up and did new material. But to that extent, when I started and I said I passed at the comic strip really quickly, which sounds like a brag, but it really might not have been the greatest thing for me. But the head of the comic strip, Lucian Hold, his name was, I had done stand-up 3 or 4 times. I tried it, and I did it at this comic strip, and I passed, which is kind of unheard of. But he said, and I remember I took it as an insult. He goes, I don't know about your material, but you stand there as good as anybody we got. So some of that might have just been presence from being an actor, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah, exactly.
I think, and even now, the stand-up I am today, I'm told you just have a strong presence up there. Once you get up there, people are focused.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure you've known Lucian very well. He's a tough character. I mean, I knew him little bit before he passed. This comic strip was the first club that passed me in the city, and it was kind of early when I started doing it. They did that lottery audition where you'd pick a raffle ticket, and 2 months later you'd audition, and Richie, the owner, would audition you. And I was auditioning actually with a Tim Dillon, who's a very well-known comic now.
Sure.
Yeah.
And he was one of my very good friends. We came up together, and Tim did not pass because Tim's gay, but he's got this big gravelly voice. And Richie goes to me, he goes, "You passed. You can come back on Monday nights." And he goes, "Tim, we're not buying that whole gay thing. Come back when you have some more material." And now Tim skyrocketed.
And he was not acting; he was literally,
Exactly. But yeah, it was one of my first club that I passed. And Lucian was a really, really tough character. Even my girlfriend, who's a comic now, was a waitress at the comic strip for years. And she said Lucian was the toughest guy to deal with, but he's also one of the nicest guys. And
yeah, he was tough as nails when it came to passing at the club. He just he wanted a certain style of comedian. He wanted a certain thing. And I remember that, I look back now, and what he was trying to do was compliment me. But, when you're a young comedian and somebody goes, "I don't know about your material,"
exactly. What do I make of that?
Yeah.
So it's interesting, and something that we talk about on the show a lot is that we know comics for a long time, and whether they do okay, not do okay. The one thing that you can't teach, and this is something that I don't know if you ever worked with a comic named Joe Starr, but Joe Starr used to tell me years ago that you can't teach likability. Likability is something that you either have on stage or you don't, and I'm sure part of your presence up there is that you strike me as a very likable character just in regular life. So I'm sure that translates to the stage as well.
I think it definitely does. Although the other part of that is, look, when I went back to stand up, I was a recognizable person. So that's great for about 3 minutes.
Oh yeah.
That'll buy you 3 to 5 minutes. You better start being funny.
Yep.
Or they don't care if they can recognize your face at all.
You're exactly right. I mean, even Kevin James, who stops in here at Governor's every now and then, I was doing a show with him, and he gets this booming standing ovation when he walks out of there. But he goes, after 5 minutes, it's on me.
Yeah.
You're 100% right.
Yeah. It's great. It's great to have. And, for people, because I took so many years off from stand-up, I have people come to my shows now that, haven't seen me do stand-up.
Yeah.
So, and they're curious. And, of course, after the show, happily, they're almost always happy with the evening. And they go, we didn't know what to think.
Exactly.
You played a bad comedian. We didn't know if you're going to be a bad
That's right. You're going to be doing Ovaltine jokes? That's what you're going to do?
You're going to be doing Ovaltine jokes we're going to be doing. And then I kind of make it very clear that, no, I'm just going to be doing stand-up here. And to their credit, the audience lets go of it real quick, too.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's something that we also address, and Mike just had an experience recently. Mike is a road warrior now. He's out a lot. He's doing comedy a lot more than I am. But Mike finds himself in situations more often than not recently where he is featuring for one of these viral quote unquote sensations who pack rooms. Yet when they are presented with doing 30, 40 minutes, sometimes they're looking, in the green room to see if Keegan can come back out and do more time because they can't carry a crowd for 40 minutes. Yeah. So that's kind of
it's an interesting thing. I had an answer from a club owner who said something I was surprised by. So he goes, look, they can pack the house, but they have like 8 minutes and stuff. He goes, and, their crowd doesn't really drink big. They usually, get a buzz before they come over. I go, yeah, but they can't, they can't do the full 45 or whatever you want them to do. He goes, I know, but you know what I found out? Their crowd doesn't really want to be there that long. They take their Instagram photo. They want to get the thing done. They say they saw them. They get the picture, and they're out of there.
That's true.
But
that's another thing.
That doesn't help sell booze.
Yeah, exactly.
So even though our audience has heard it, Mike, I want you to tell Steve the episode that you won't mention any names, obviously, but the episode that happened recently.
Yeah, so I was on the road featuring for a social media guy that fills these rooms. He filled up a theater. And first, he does a lot of political stuff, and they told us right away, no political. And that took 10 minutes out of his 20 minutes probably that he had, and he kind of pretended that he was sick and told the booker, he goes, is it okay if I go up before Mike and I do like 15 minutes, and I ended up doing like 45, and I'm like that's all great and good. I had a great set. It went really well, and I like the guy. He's a nice guy, but I'm also at the end of the day, he's making 5 times the amount of money I'm making. You figured he'd throw me a little extra money if I'm doing 45 minutes and he's doing 15. But
I would think he would throw you a bone in that instance as well.
Yeah, because it was just totally obvious. He wasn't really not feeling well. He didn't want to go up, and he knew that he didn't have the time to fill. He didn't realize that they wanted him to do 45 full minutes. He thought he was supposed to do like 20. And
yeah, someone who's never done 45 minutes doesn't understand that it is a lifetime and an eternity.
It's a long time up there.
Yeah, it is a long time. I usually do a little thing, just a little thing to ground me. From the time they're saying my credits and, you ready for your headliner and saying the credits and say my name to the time I get to the microphone, which is a short amount of time.
Yeah.
I just have a little talk with myself. And usually it's like, who the hell do you think you are? You're going to stand there for an hour and you're just you.
Just
okay,
you?
good.
300 people want to hear what you have to say for 45 minutes?
Right.
Yeah.
So almost
sometimes it just grounds me while I'm walking to the mic.
It's true.
It's crazy that you've been in the public eye, comedy, TV, all movies for 40 plus years, and you're still giving yourself little doses of humility, which I think is really important to be able to continue to be successful on stage.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. What I'm trying to do. Because when you a nice compliment of saying, humility, you don't think of that in a moment where you may be having some humility. What I'm trying to do is what I think is so important is be present in that room. Mm-hmm. I want to, as fast as I can, let the room know that this isn't just a Tuesday or a Saturday.
Yep.
This is our show. I ground myself in the room. I may make comments about the room itself. I make comments about some people in the room. But I want that show, not a show, that show.
This show, this is an event. Yeah.
Yeah.
Steve, are you finding yourself loving it? Are you really loving it in comparison to how you used to? Are you loving it more? Tell us a little bit about that.
I love it so much more because the first time around, I had this, this hankering, this over my shoulder of, you really want to act, man. You really want to act. I don't know if this wasn't your dream. Is this really what you want? So I had a lot of that going on the first time around. Now I don't have any of that. And then also, if I may be so, acting is the most collaborative art form there is. You're working with 100 different people, actors, director, hair, makeup, wardrobe, sets. You're working with 100 people. Stand-up is the least collaborative art form. And right now, in my life, I am enjoying the least collaborative art form.
Good. Yep, absolutely.
That's really an interesting dynamic. When you went back to stand up, which is again not that many years ago, your family, your loved ones, were they surprised that you decided to go that route, or they were supportive? I mean, what was that like?
Well, my dad had passed on, so when I was young and I wanted to be an actor, and then I even started acting, my dad always said, "Oh, he's trying to be an actor. He's trying to be an actor." I did stand up one time. He's like, "He's a comedian." He just loved the idea
That's great.
of me being a comedian. And till he passed, his line, and he wasn't kidding. He always made this mistake, and he said it 9,000 times: "Is thank God for that Steinfeld show."
That's funny. We used to call it in my house Steinfeld too, because growing up in Valley Stream, my pediatrician was named Dr. Steinfeld, which actually wasn't far from where you grew up in Central Valley Stream area. So for Steve Hirschman and Barbara Hirschman, it was always the Steinfeld show also. So that must be a Jewish household thing or something like that. So there's no stopping you now. You're just rolling. You're loving it. You don't have any intention of stopping at this juncture.
Well, to be honest with you, I'm kind of, in a way, for the lack of a better word, stopping myself in that I'm not really looking to do a T-shirt tour and be out every second, third day. Yeah. Like I said, I'm at a certain point in my life. I'm very fortunate. I go out like 2 weekends a month, and I have enough bookers that come, ring me up and want me to play. I tell you one thing I'll brag about. I've never played anywhere that didn't ask me back.
Great. Yeah, that's the number one.
That's huge.
That's huge in comedy.
Yeah. So I'll have the places I like. I try and find some places I haven't done before. Yep. This year I'm doing a bunch of places I haven't done before just because I want to reach out a little bit. But I'm really fortunate. Like I said, I try and do a couple of weekends a month and do that because and that's why if we really want to get into it, I don't use an agent. Mm-hmm. I just have bookers that call me because if I have an agent, first thing they do is blow smoke up your butt. We could be in the Steve Heitner business. Oh, we would love to. Exactly. It'd be unbelievable for us. And then you explain what you want. And then, they book you in Buffalo and they go, and as long as you're in Buffalo, we have you in Rochester the next week. And I'm like, okay, you're not listening.
Yeah. That's not what you want at this point.
That's not, Now, if that sounds like a nice problem to have, I guess it is. But that's not why I don't want to be out, 35, 40 weekends a year.
Exactly.
So you're going to be doing Governors. Have you done these rooms before? I'm assuming you have years ago?
I have not. That's the idea. What's crazy is I'm so West Coast that I do West Coast. I do the Heartland, I do Florida, but my own area where I'm from, I have played so little.
Wow.
That I'm finally making an effort to go, you wouldn't believe how few times I play the tri-state area, like close in the tri-state area, so rarely.
So tell us the dynamic of how the arrangement with Governors. Did you reach out to the ownership here? How'd that come about?
Oh, that's interesting. I was playing a club in Florida, and the guy who opened for me, featured for me. You know how the expressions have changed. When I first did stand-up, it was called middling.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, you middled for somebody. Now it's feature, right?
Featuring. Mikey's your feature. Yeah.
In your middle.
Yeah. So my feature is from Long Island. Adam Snare. Do you know?
Oh,
Adam?
Oh,
I know
yeah.
Adam.
We know
Yeah,
Adam.
yeah,
Yeah.
Right. So Adam said, he said, why don't you play? I go, you know what? I just haven't really reached out to those places. He goes, I'm fixing it. I'm going to have you at Governor's.
Nice.
So he talked to them, got him. They got my number. I gave him my number. They called me, and we worked out the date.
Ah, very nice.
And you're doing, is it Governor's main room that you're going to be booked in Levittown? The
Yeah,
Governor.
here in Levittown, yeah.
Wow. Can I just tell you that that this is our home club? I live 2 miles from here. Mikey lives 3. This is our home club where I first started. I did my first set here. I think you did one of your first sets.
I did my first set.
If your
yeah.
first set. You are in for a treat. And I loved before how you said that clubs have always asked you back. Well, they're going to ask you back. You're going to ask them back because
Great.
It's a great room.
you're going to never want to not come here. You're going to this room is a very special room. It only holds about 300, Mikey?
Almost 300, yeah.
Yeah, about 300.
305 or
Little-
something like that, yeah.
but-
It's another club like that I love, but I play down there because I'm going down in February. You do your Florida chunk when the weather's great down there, and all the snowbirds are down there,
Yep,
right?
exactly.
Side Splitters in Tampa.
yes, yep.
Phenomenal
That's
room.
a great club, yeah.
Yeah, great people, great room.
Yep.
You're going to have a great time. You're going to be... I'm just going to warn you, though. People are going to talk your ear off after the show. People are going to buy you drinks and chicken wings, and they're going to want to talk, and you're going to get more, this is gold, Kenny, and you're going to get more, things like that than you ever dreamed of. But you're going to... These people here on Long Island are some of the sharpest comedic fans. Would you agree,
Yeah.
Mike?
Oh, definitely, yeah. It's also almost kind of like the Midwest here. It's very family oriented and everybody's friendly and
And they will love the fact that you're a Long Island boy. They eat that shit up when they hear
But
that.
I'll tell you something else I do that we haven't touched on yet. We're talking about clubs and whatnot. Is I do a lot of corporate.
Okay, yes.
So because the big boys have these enormous corporate numbers,
Yeah.
and I can come in and be a recognizable face and undercut that number quite deeply,
Yeah.
and still have a very nice number.
Yeah, absolutely. And
Right.
still do
So-
super well.
Yeah, so I do quite a bit of corporate.
Mm-hmm.
They're not as fun. They're never going to be as fun as a club or a theater.
Yeah.
I always say, if people didn't take a shower to come see you specifically, it's not the same.
That's right.
That's true. That's 100% right.
Over the years, whether it be comedians or actors, do you mind sharing with us some of the people that you formed the closest relationships with, just based on their goodness, their trust, the way they treat you over the years?
I would say I did a movie called The Marrying Man. It was written by Neil Simon. It was the movie where Alec Baldwin and Kim Basinger fall in love.
Yeah.
And if he's not with her, he's with his 3 buddies, and the 3 buddies were Paul Reiser, myself, and Fisher Stevens.
Yep.
And they sent us the guys. They just sent us to Vegas to become friends. It was back when there was a brand new Mirage Hotel that opened, and me and Paul Reiser just hit it off. Just one of those friendships that happens in
I
1
can see
minute.
that. He seems like such a great guy.
Phenomenal guy.
Yeah.
Phenomenal guy. Alec had this huge trailer, as well he should have, right? And then Paul and I were in the same trailer, but there was like a thing in the middle. Like we had a half a huge trailer each. I think it was within a day that we tore that middle part down.
Nice. Excellent.
That's
Just had that.
terrific. And just to show you what a weirdo I am, I was hoping you were going to say Fisher Stevens, who is always one of my favorite actors. His name was, I think, Stephen Fisher, and then for acting, you changed it to Fisher Stevens. But I was hoping you were going to say him for some reason.
No, he's a great guy. But Paul and I just, we remained friends. Just a fantastic individual. Fantastic.
Now, did I see that he was getting back up on stage not that long ago, a few years ago, doing
he
comedy?
is. He is. He's doing more and more stand-up now. He has a son with a lot of challenges.
Okay.
And so when he was doing Mad About You, I hope he wouldn't mind me saying this. I don't think he would. Do you know how much of your schedule that takes to do a show like that? And then after Mad About You was over, he really dove into his family and made sure he was there.
So it's really an interesting phenomenon. So you look at all these actors who had comedians who have gotten success from acting. You have a Seinfeld who now is back doing a lot of gigs, and you have yourself who acted for many years doing comedy. Kevin James is constantly on the road doing stand-up, and it's on and on. So I guess it's part of you, and it never really leaves. It's who you are when it comes down to it.
Yeah, it's kind of like when you asked me the question, which was a good question about how I felt about it then and how I feel about it now. I feel so much stronger about it now. I felt like it felt like a vehicle for me then.
Yeah, and now you can do it for fun.
Yeah, and now I do it as a stand-up,
Yeah.
I had one of the great compliments. A club owner said to me, I was playing up in, I think it was Buffalo, and I did it. He hired me. I was in for the weekend, sold well. I came off the first show, and he goes, "Oh, you're a comic." I go, "What? Yeah." He goes, "What do you mean?" He goes, "You know how many actors who turn comedians
Exactly.
I've had up here, and it's like they're just up there pretending to be a comedian. They're actors.
Yep.
They don't have it. It's not in their blood. It's not the thing." He goes, "You're a comic." And I still take that on my second journey as one of the best compliments I've gotten.
Do you know what? People that aren't in comedy probably don't get how great of a compliment that is.
That's a great point, Mike.
I was recently, there's a show that I wanted to get on, and a comedy show at a venue I wanted to get on. I liked a lot of the headliners that come in there. So I messaged one of the guys that I knew that produced the show, and I'm like, "Hey, can I get a spot on the show? I'm open this, I see you have the show this date. Can I get on?" And he goes, yeah, come down, do 10 minutes. And I went, did 10 minutes. He goes, "Oh, you're like actually like a real comic. Like, I thought you were just like,
looking
some
for a
open
favor
micer
to do
looking
5
for
minutes.
5 minutes in front of, I think it was Dave Attell was on the show or something." And so ever since then, he books me almost every show that he has there, once every couple of months. And but that's such a big compliment for comics.
It is a great compliment. I say so. I was trying to push it and go, "What exactly did you mean by that?" Because I'm always trying to. And he goes, "Well, first of all, these actors that try and be comedians, they can't control the stage. You just see in 2 seconds they can't control the stage. Like they can't control. And when you can't control the stage, you can't control the room, and
Yeah, exactly.
It's an incredible dynamic. I think that's a great point that Mike just made, that people who are not comics, who have never performed on a consistent basis, don't really understand the mindset, how certain things affect us differently. Little tiny, just a little one word, little sentence like that makes you think about it forever.
Yeah, exactly.
It's really amazing. We don't have a lot more time with you, Steve. We can keep you for 9 hours, but one thing that Mike and I were talking about, because we both love the episode, so if you don't mind sharing with us your experience when you actually, I guess, were Steve Heitner on Curb Your Enthusiasm doing a table read, could you just tell us, kind of what that was like? Was that a surreal thing for you? Was that a cool experience? Did we lose him?
Yeah, I think we did.
Oh, he's probably frozen, and we'll get him back.
It's cold in Nevada.
I thought I stopped him in his tracks.
what an amazing question.
I'm like, was that an amazing question or just a horrendous question? Yeah. Like the Kentucky thing. Like maybe he was not on Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Yeah, right.
But you do remember that because we talked about it before.
Exactly.
So,
but we try to get him back. I will say, just speaking of great rooms, how this is such a great room. Catch a Rising Star, where we're going to be on Friday night, Steve and I, is one of my favorite rooms. The people that run that place, Jill and Jim, are... we lost you for a minute.
Yeah, my whole my laptop went down. I'm on my phone now.
Right. Oh, okay.
Am I uglier? Am I older and uglier for you now?
Oh my!
This is the real Steve Heitner now.
Goodness.
Jesus Christ!
So
Mark has a great question. Before he asks that, which is an awesome question, I do want to say, like we were speaking about how this is such a great room here at Governors, where Steve and I are going to be Friday night at Catch a Rising Star in Princeton. One of my favorite rooms in the country. The people that run that place, Jim and Jill, are the most amazing people. They always have great crowds. So Friday night, make sure you're getting your tickets to come see Steve Heitner at Catch a Rising Star. I know that they're already selling tickets. Carla was there like a month ago, and my girlfriend is a comedian, and she was there a month ago, and people that were at her show were saying that they were already getting tickets to go see Steve.
And the host of that show, have you worked with him before? I thought you have.
Steve Trevelise is hosting the show. Yeah, he's a radio guy in by Princeton, and he's a really good guy.
That's awesome.
Oh, I talked to him. We did a little thing on his 9 p.m. show.
Oh, nice. Oh, very cool. Yeah, Steve's a great guy. Very funny guy. Great guy.
Yeah, but before you scared the shit out of us, and I thought that my question had turned you off and you hung up on me. I just saying about the, listen, comedy nuts, we're TV fan nuts. So obviously we both watched the episode with you on Curb a million times. Could you just tell us what that experience was like for you?
That was it was kind of, to be honest with you, it was a weird time. That was when a lot of that stuff was going down with Michael, with what happened to him at the comedy club.
Right.
Gotcha.
So there was just a lot of that energy going on, and they were trying to help Michael with some of the storylines on the Curb stuff, just trying to, so there was a lot of that energy going on, and it was kind of wild because they shoot their show very differently than a Seinfeld show. We had the studio audience, they shoot it differently. And then there was another level of a B-roll of, like, Entertainment Tonight, rolling tape on watching the Seinfeld people be on the curb doing Seinfeld.
Yeah.
So it was just bizarre in a lot of ways. One of my favorite moments was we were doing this scene, where Funkhauser does that joke, that real dirty joke.
Yeah.
Oh, please.
When he tells Jerry and Larry, yeah.
It's in the sink.
Yeah, I'm standing right next to Jerry in that scene, and but before that, we're doing some of the scene before it, and Jerry's saying stuff, and Larry is cracking up like he's breaking out of character constantly. He's just enjoying himself so much, he's breaking out of character, and Jerry, who had not actually acted with Larry all that much, right? They worked together. They didn't act together all that much. And Jerry looks at Larry and goes, "Wow, who knew you had a glass comedy jaw?"
That's amazing. That's
I was like,
great.
that's one of the great lines I've ever heard.
That is.
Hilarious. When Bob Einstein tells that joke, did Jerry know what joke he was going to tell?
No, I truly believe,
yeah.
because I was, like I said, I was standing right there, that was the first time Jerry had ever heard that joke.
That's really the impression that I got out of it, and I'm glad that that's kind of.
So just please realize that Mike is 40. I'm 50 plus, and I would say that in the past 14 years since Mike and I have been friends, we have sent that video back to each other, back and forth, about 3,000 times.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like we've never seen it
that's
the first
awesome.
time.
Yep.
That's all. It was amazing, and because that joke, look, as a joke teller, and I'm not really a joke teller. I don't really do jokes. I'm very conversational. But that is such an A-side joke. The whole joke is the telling of the A-side.
Yep, exactly.
And who better than him to tell that joke?
Yep, and especially he's just playing a character that's not a comic and just annoying
right.
Jerry at the craft services, and it's just great. It's perfect.
He was so good. Do you have some stories about him? Did you get a chance to know him at all?
No, I really, it saddens me I didn't know him better. That was my whole experience. I had never met him before. And I never met him again. My experience with him was that day on the set. And, I always try and be respectful. I said hi and stuff, but I don't like to, corner them into a room or anything. But huge fan of his from all the days with the insanity and the stunts and all of it.
So for me, being when I was 10 years old, I started to fall in love with Letterman right from the beginning, and Super Dave was on Letterman for all those years. So I saw him from a totally different perspective on Curb, and I was like, wait, this is Super Dave? Like, I couldn't even believe it. And he was just so brilliant, and I think it wasn't even that long ago that I found out that he was Albert Brooks' brother.
Yeah,
I didn't know that until
and
probably
Albert
10
Brooks'
years
real
ago.
name is Albert Einstein.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah,
And I, coming from my acting background, I was an enormous Albert Brooks.
Oh yeah.
I mean, just huge. That was everything I wanted to do. For me, when I was coming up, so I booked The Marrying Man, the movie with the Neil Simon movie. It was a big, big thing for me to book at that time. So it's written by Neil Simon. So the final auditions, Neil Simon's in the room. Oh, wow. I'm like, here I go. All right. Well, I'm going in. Neil Simon's in there. I'm going in. I got to do this audition. I do the audition. I get the part. The casting director, Ronnie Yeskel, a wonderful woman who passed away very shortly ago. She was kind enough to tell me, she goes, when you came in, and I knew I was doing well. It was a comedy and they were laughing hard, right? But she said, when you left the room, Neil Simon said, "Let's go with Steve. He reminds me of a young Jack Lemmon."
Oh,
Whoa.
wow, that's awesome.
You know what?
I can
Your
see that.
voice
I can
actually.
see it, yeah.
And I was just watching Grumpy Old Men last night with Mathau and
You looked in the mirror, yeah.
And
Yeah.
you really have your voice definitely has a little bit of a similarity to it.
And like obviously he was a god, a hero of mine my whole life. So if people ever say, "Well, what's the best compliment you ever got?" I'm like, "Well, Neil Simon said I reminded him of a young Jack."
That's great.
Wow.
That's so cool.
They once said people had said that they remind us of Captain and Tennille. They thought
That's
me and
what
Mike
they say.
were.
Me and Mark.
Is that right?
always,
Yeah.
we can't even walk down the street.
Or was
without
it no? Was it Cher and Sonny? Was that what it was? We can't.
You're the Sonny to my Cher.
So I'll tell you Walter Matthau's story.
Oh,
So,
please.
We're all getting to know each other. Neil Simon says, "Hey, why don't we, as always, we're all supposed to become buddies. Let's go to the track." So I go to the track with Neil Simon, me, Alec Baldwin, Paul Reiser, Fisher Stevens. We all go to the track with Neil Simon. He brings his buddy Walter Matthau with him.
I can't even.
Yeah.
Wow.
Now we're at the track with Walter Matthau does this thing where he goes, so I was New York City spelling champion 1938, whatever year it was. And he pulls out a bunch of pencils, which are easy to find at the track in those days. Pulls out a bunch of pencils and a bunch of pieces of paper. And he goes, okay, takes out this other piece. He goes, all of these words here are either spelt incorrectly or correctly. You write down the correct spelling. So, of course, Alec and Paul, they're ripping at it. And I just sit there and I don't touch anything. And they're doing it, changing this. And Walter Matthau looks at me and goes, what's the matter with you? And I go, well, Mr. Matthau, I'm not a very good speller, but I'm really good with people. So I'm going to say those are either all correct or all incorrect. And he goes, very good.
Mike,
That's great.
how surreal of that. I mean, that was your one experience with Mathau, I'm assuming?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Just, there's Walter Matthau. You're at the track. You can't believe it's even happening.
That
crazy.
is absolutely outrageous.
Yeah.
You mentioned Bob Einstein. Did you have any experience over the years with the late Richard Lewis, by the way?
We had mutual friends, so I never really dealt with him in a comedy club, but I was around him and a little bit in awe of him. I just loved his energy and his presence, and then also was around him once or twice when that energy was dissipating.
Oh,
But
wow.
I can tell you that is right in the wheelhouse of a kind man.
Wow. You were talking before about, I think we were mentioning about actors breaking and things like that. I'm sure, and I know Mike and I have sent this one back. There's a scene, an old Curb scene with Jerry and with Richard, where Richard's bird dies, and Larry is not very sensitive to that. Do you ever see this scene particularly?
No, I don't know. I can't place it.
Well, I'm going to send you the clip. I'll
Okay,
email it
good.
to you. But essentially, Larry's take is it wasn't like it was a cockatoo or a toucan. And then Richard Lewis says, "A toucan? I don't live in a Cuban dance hall." And you could see that Richard is starting to break, and they obviously swing cameras around. But I'm just curious as to how often does that happen where you as actors.
It's interesting with actors. Like Michael Richards never breaks, and he gets irritated when people break.
Yeah.
You can see it because he always thinks, well, there could have been
Yes.
something there. There could have been something there.
Yep.
And if I see myself on the many things I've done and series I've done when it's the bloopers, I think I had a little bit of that. I always just got frustrated. Now, I was around for some great stuff that other people would just be losing it and breaking. Julia was the worst in the world. She couldn't keep a straight face for anything. But I know I look back at mine. And then also with other shows, sometimes there were guys that were like trying to hustle to get on the blooper reel, like, making a mistake and laughing hard. You're like, man, that's pathetic. That's just pathetic.
That's right.
So, but I think I suffered from that. When I broke, I was like, damn it. You know, I was just itching to get back. I was just itching to get back in.
That's right.
Well,
But
it seems from the many, many hundreds of blooper reels from Seinfeld that Julia Louis-Dreyfus was the one who broke the most. Richard, Kramer did not want to break at all. And ultimately, when Jerry Stiller rarely broke, it was probably the best bloopers out of all of them.
he was He was the greatest. So, as you'll see, I talk about Jerry in my act at one point. But this is one of the great people you could ever meet in your life.
Seems that way.
He is, yeah. And all I'll say is, Jerry Stiller. You know how you think he is?
Yeah.
He's exactly that.
Exactly that. Yeah, that's what I've heard. And
and
That's
of course,
great.
he's left us, but he. Just tremendous to me. One of the great people I've met in show business.
That's great.
Were there episodes that you were on the same episode with him?
Yeah, I was on the episode with the Fatigues where he sent 50 men to the latrine.
When he cooks. That's right.
Yeah.
The chef.
And they made that insane choice that instead of trying to use a younger actor or to make him look younger, they just put the hat on him.
That was brilliant.
That's great.
He was a young cook in the army, and he was 67
I love that.
years old.
I was just standing off stage, just watching him, laughing my head off,
Yeah.
and but we did get to talk. We did get to talk a little bit. I'll tell you one of the stories. Like, so I do Seinfeld with him. I get to chat with him a bunch. I just loved him. And a couple of years later, I guest on King of Queens.
Yeah.
So of course, we get to the table read, which it starts with. And he got there a little later than most people. And he walks in the door. He sees me sitting there and can tell I'm going to be, in the guest cast that week. Yeah. And in front of everybody, he goes, "Well, this week's going to be funny. Mr. Heitner's here."
That's great.
Wow.
Just the greatest.
That's
kindest.
great. That's what I've heard. I can't for the life of me remember, but a friend of mine, their daughter was in the hospital at the same time Jerry Stiller was getting some kind of procedure.
Okay.
And he befriended them. I guess the daughter was, walking down the hall, and he just took a liking to the daughter. Was a young kid at the time, and she was in the hospital for a month or so. And Jerry Stiller and Ann Mira every day would bring her presents and just brighten up her day every single day.
That's consistent, Steve, with what you know of him?
Oh, that's exactly who he is.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's exactly who he is. There's no other Jerry.
Yeah.
That's
who he
terrific.
is.
That's great. Steve, this hour has flown so quickly. We appreciate your generosity and your kindness and being here. We hope you enjoyed yourself, and we'd love to have you on again. Maybe as you approach coming here in May, and we'll see if Mikey can get on that show. It'll be terrific. But
that'd be great.
Thank you so much for your time. I'm gonna send you 2 clips, by the way. I'll send you 3 actually. I'll send you the link of this show tomorrow once we have it up on YouTube. I'm gonna send you the Cuban dance hall Richard Lewis curb scene, and there's also, you mentioned Matthau, who is one of my favorites of all time. There's an incredible Walter Matthau Johnny Carson clip where Walter Matthau is talking about
number 1, number 2.
It's when he's in the hospital and he's talking about the guy in the room with him who's complaining about the food and things like that.
I don't know that one. But I know that. Do you know the joke that I'm having a number 1, I'm having a number 2?
Yes.
I love that. I love that.
This one is so, and it must have been towards the end for Walter Matthau because he had like those cataract glasses on, so I think he was kind of, but when I watch this, which again is frequent, I am obsessed with the timing and the cadence and the pauses and the delivery and the straight delivery. Not a smirk to be found in him. It is just pure comedy beauty. And I'm going to send you that. And again, speaking of beauty, you are a beauty, not only your skin and your youth, but for coming on with us.
Yeah, and most importantly, come see Steve Friday night, 8 o'clock show, Catch a Rising Star in Princeton, one of my favorite towns to be in. The food there is amazing. But it's a great club, and Jill and
You
Jim
went
are
to
the best there.
college in Princeton?
I went to Princeton. Community College.
Oh, right. Okay. Gotcha.
So close. So
So
Yeah.
close. I almost made it.
Well-
But it's going to be a great show. Come see Steve Friday night. I know Thursday you're in Connecticut and Saturday you're in Boston.
I'm at the Kate Hepburn
Excellent.
Museum and Theater.
Oh, wow. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, you travel well, my friend. Travel safely. I will send you a message, and you will see Mikey over the weekend. And again, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate you.
See you on Friday, sir.
Thank you guys. Look forward to doing it again.
All right,
Absolutely.
great.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
All
Bye
right,
now.
bye.
Wow, what a mensch.
Yeah,
My
that
gosh.
was awesome. Very
what a
good
mensch.
guy.
Oh, I'm so, like, I always, this is years where I do this, where you say you're going to be somewhere, and I'm like, oh, I can't wait, and that's the thing between you. Like, I really want to see if I can figure out to go with you.
I got a room there.
Oh, are you staying there?
Yeah, I'm going to stay over.
It's not even
Yeah,
that
yeah.
far, is it? What is it?
It's not that far, but they give you a room because the club is in a hotel.
Oh, okay.
So,
is it like in the lower level of the
yeah, it's
hotel,
in
but
the-
they set it
it's
up
in
like
the-
a comedy club?
Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, it's
Carla and the baby coming or no?
they may or may not. Juliana usually comes there because they have an indoor pool there,
Okay.
and she likes it there.
Okay.
It's just a great club. So the downstairs is the comedy club and a restaurant and bar.
Okay.
And then it's a beautiful, beautiful hotel.
Awesome. Well, so maybe I won't come if they're there.
No, you can come. There's 2 beds. You can share one.
Okay, good.
With Carla.
We're going to continue for a couple more minutes. Tone, I'm going to just close out with a few more sponsors, and then we'll come back and BS a little bit. The Herschy and Keegs show is proudly sponsored by American Restoration Solutions. When disaster strikes, they'll guide you to recovery. Call 516-662-9377 and ask for Senior Account Manager Keith Dunn. New View Construction, established in 2007. They are the people to call for the finest craftsmanship and all of your general contracting needs. Call 516-924-5627 and do it with confidence. And of course, last but not least, the beautiful New York State licensed real estate person, Diane Keegan from All Island Estates Realty Corporation. You can call Diane directly at 516-458-1864 or email her at diane@allislandestates.com. If you're looking to rent, sell, or buy, make Diane your first call. And that wraps up our sponsors for this week, and we're almost wrapping the show up.
Wishing Diane well. She had cataract surgery today. Speaking of cataract.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Is she okay?
She's
getting
fine.
around
She's
all right?
yeah, she's resting and
Okay.
She was commenting earlier.
Oh,
Oh,
good.
was she? Oh.
She says she thinks a friend of hers graduated high school with Mr. Height.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's
All
well.
right.
Mom's in that low to mid
Yeah,
60s range.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll have to ask him when I see him.
She's, it's crazy. Like as we continue to interview these celebrities that are, impressive resumes, I think there's always a little bit of a feeling like, what are we gonna step into here?
Yeah.
Like, is this guy or girl gonna be a presumptuous jerk?
Yeah, exactly. He was absolutely not.
I'm gonna say, like, I'm so excited for you to work with this guy on
Yeah,
Friday,
yeah.
because aside from just getting to open for him and middle for him, you're gonna have a hang of a lifetime.
Yeah,
here.
it should be a great hang, and
Yeah.
they got a great bar there. Hopefully he'll hang, and it's a
I mean, obviously he's
because I didn't know him from a hole in the wall, but when they asked me to work this weekend at Catch to open for him,
Yeah.
I was like, oh, you know what? Let me try to get him on the podcast. And all I did was just have a couple of interactions with him on Twitter.
Just like
And It was
that.
nothing. So it was nothing like nothing personal. So I'm like, this guy could be anything. This guy could be want to get off in 5 minutes.
Right.
But he was interested. He could always tell he enjoyed it because he wanted to keep telling some
Right.
stories, and he was
Yeah.
just a great guy. And I look forward to.
well, I think what's good about the H and K, as they say,
H and the K. That's
is
what the
that
kids say.
our guests don't seem to want to get off, which
wanna
is
leave.
good.
People don't wanna leave.
We have been. That's a good sign.
Yeah.
That's definitely a good sign. Obviously, he's a little bit better than the average human being because he's a Valley Stream guy. So, that obviously
and central and not
right. That's right.
dirtbag south like you.
Wow,
A
that's
Southie.
That's not a lie. I wish I could argue that point, but it's definitely he wasn't from the South
He was
Side.
from the good side of the tracks.
He wasn't from the South Side,
Yeah,
but
that's right.
he was a delight. What a lovely man, and we certainly appreciate it, and we appreciate you guys. Every week you're churning it out, and you're here, and you're loving us, and you're sharing, even though you're not always.
Yeah, you should just share.
Just
Yeah,
share,
you're not
you
really
bastards.
sharing. boring.
You're not, you fucks.
play your part.
But please just do what you have to do. All right, let's wrap up the show, Mikey. So you have Catch a Rising Star in Princeton, New Jersey with Steve Heitner this weekend.
Yep,
what else you got
Friday,
coming up?
Tomorrow night I'll be here at Governor's Thursday night show.
Okay.
Levittown main room.
Yep.
Friday, yes, Catch a Rising Star with Steve Heitner. If you're near Princeton, Saturday I'll be at the something Lake Club in Connecticut.
The Something Lake Club. Good.
It's all on my website, my website, my Facebook,
Right.
my Facebook page, my
It's
website.
all on the website that Mike
And,
hasn't built yet. It's all there on
And
Wix.
as we say every week, coming up on March 19th is that Think Happy event.
Yeah.
For grieving families at the Jericho Terrace in Mineola.
Yep.
Let me know if anybody wants tickets. We have a table, 140 a person, 1,400 a table. But just get in touch with me, and I'll get in touch with the right people.
Terrific. And our producer, who we love so much, Anthony Walker. What do you have to say for yourself today, young man?
KnockEmDeadComedy.com. We got some dates in Connecticut and Jersey, and we're traveling all around. KnockEmDeadComedy.com.
And besides that, and I don't think we plugged this enough, but Tony is on a live podcast pretty much 4 days a week, sometimes 5.
5, sometimes 6. Actually.
Yeah. So I mean, listen, no, but just don't push it, okay? Don't I'm trying to no. So you're on. I thought Wednesdays used to be off at some time.
Oh yeah, I stopped. I returned to Wednesdays about a year ago.
Okay, good. I knew I was up to stuff on that. But what's interesting is that Tony, I think your guests are terrific. From that lady who comes in on Tuesdays, and then you have Don Sill pop in, and these are some really interesting, intriguing guests with some really great stories. So please turn into Tony. The show.
You got Rosie doing Friday nights with you now.
Fridays.
Rosie.
Rosie's going to do Fridays. Yeah, Rosie for you tomorrow.
Yeah,
That's great.
She's great.
And the show normally starts. Is it 10:30 in the morning time?
11 a.m.
11 a.m.
Good,
Okay.
Good, Mark.
No, but it's funny because I will, if I'm on a break or something, or I'm in my car, I'll watch it.
You're usually
for a little
waiting
bit.
in the queue at 10:30.
I watch it. I can watch a lot more than you do, prick. Okay. Anyway, I love it. I love
Thank
you and love Tony.
And you're very supportive. I appreciate it.
And I did want to mention. Let me throw a little pop. Another. Is Don Sill's show considered a governor show? By the way,
Yes, it is.
Okay, so Don Sill, who is one of the greatest people that we know, all of us. He's just a wonderful, sweet man with eyes like little blue oceans. And Don has a show called Donversations, I believe it's called.
Donversations, yep.
And I don't even know if I told Mikey this, but I will be appearing as a guest
Really?
tomorrow
No way.
night on Donversations tomorrow night. At I had to push it back. It's going to be 8:30, and I'm super stoked because it's going to be a flip of the script almost, as they say in the business.
Well, if you don't mind me stopping you, just so you know, it's not live. So he just records it.
Okay.
So it probably won't be on for another week or so.
Oh, so he does it, he edits it, whatever
Correct.
he does.
Correct.
Okay, so I'm not going to advertise anything yet, though. Just other than it's going to be coming on eventually.
I get it. It's a conversation with Don.
Yeah.
A Donversation.
Correct.
There we go.
Yeah. Why does he do it that way? Just out of curiosity.
Well, for that reason, he likes to edit. He'll throw in clips of like. I don't know, let's say you talk about the Yankees. He might throw in a clip of the Yankees, stuff like that. So probably mid-February. The show, it's every Friday at 8 is when it premieres.
Okay. So I will say that in the 14 years plus that I've been doing stand-up, there are people that I have formed relationships with, like you and Haft and Monty.
Yeah.
What? Yawning. Tony. Don is one that I've kind of met more recently in the past year or two, I guess. He's a close family friend of Tony for a long time. And he's just a terrific human being. He's funny. He's disarming. He's engaging. And I'm super excited about this tomorrow night. So thank you for giving me the chance to plug that. And thank you guys. And we're going to sign off right now. We will be back next week. You know what? Right now, I don't know if we have a guest book. We might just be...
might be freeballing it
We might
next
be
week.
going OG next week.
Right?
But we'll see. We'll let you know. And either way, we will be here next Tuesday. You guys have a good night.